So when we think about power, we often think about power as it relates to our lives. For instance, we felt the power of the wind this week. The West Coast felt the power of nature and that massive storm that it hit. As that wind was blowing through my backyard, I was visibly reminded of the power of nature as it moves through, and how it has the ability to do all kinds of interesting things in our world, including keeping my puppies in the house. They wouldn't go out. Quite a power that wind had. I had several demonstrations of power this week, most of which I did not appreciate. I had the power of momentum as I was moving boxes out of our storage shed. I felt the power of the ground as I hit it. Now, there's a lot of power in that momentum that was going through there. And then the next day, I felt the power of a tiny, tiny, tiny kernel of popcorn as I bit down on it and broke a tooth. So it's been quite a demonstration of power. I had to laugh as I was preparing this talk because I'm thinking, well, look at that. I got something I can actually talk about really well today because I've been experiencing it. But we think of power as a way it affects our lives. But our topic this month is about that universal power, about that divine power. Power is actually a synonym for a spirit, for God, for that universal intelligence that created everything. It is a quality that cannot be diminished in any way. There is a power out there. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, says there is a power for good in the universe, and you can use it. And then later on he said there's a power for good in the universe, and it uses you. And when he's talking about that, he is talking about this one amazing creative intelligence that has brought everything forth through its own essence. It had nothing else to create from except its own power. And so the power was generated from within itself, and that's what created. He defines power, spiritual power, this way in his book, Think Your Troubles Away. He says, let us define spiritual power as a dynamic quality of that invisible essence of life, intelligence, and law, which we call God or first cause. We call it lots of things. Ernest liked first cause. He liked God. I like all kinds of different names for it. As a matter of fact, Ernest had 88 names, if you remember back to the beginning of the year when I showed you that slide, with all of the 88 names for God. It doesn't matter what we call it. In fact, when we try to name it, we diminish it in some way because it puts a limitation on our idea of it as we try to name this amazing power and presence that's out there. This is one of those things that sometimes can be a hard concept to understand, that there is this universal power that does not judge at all. Oftentimes we get that idea of the power of spirit as being a force to keep us in control, to keep us in line, to make us do what it wants us to do. And if we don't do it, then we feel the effects of its power in a negative way. We don't believe in a power like that. We believe in the power, as Ernest says here, law or first cause. Those are ideas about that impartial nature of spirit, that immutable part that he talks about, where it doesn't change, it gives the same results to each person based on the belief of the person. So there's nothing about judging or condemning or any of that spirit sitting on the throne up in heaven looking down and saying, you didn't do right. We don't have that kind of a God in our belief system. We believe that this spirit is totally immune to those kinds of ideas. So we are able to use this power to create in our lives, just like spirit uses the power to create everything that's in existence. We can actually use this power ourselves. And so this conscious use of this power that we have actually comes to us when we recognize that it exists, when we actually build that faith and that belief system that there is this power for good out there and that it can be used for our benefit, then it actually begins to respond to us. It responds to us in a way that we generally are looking for based on our belief system. Again, remember, as we talked about earlier in the year, it's done unto us as we believe. And so if we believe that there is this power for good and it's going to manifest good in our lives, that's what's going to happen. If we believe that there is a power for good in the universe and it's going to judge us, then we're going to feel as though we've been judged. We're not really being judged, but we're going to feel that. We're going to internalize those ideas that there's something out there that's holding me back for some reason, for something I did, some sin or something I've done wrong in my life, that's going to hold me back because of that. If we have a belief in that, then that's going to be our experience. But if we can actually begin to eliminate those beliefs, clear away those old ideas of that judgmental deity sitting there watching us and checking its list, making a list and checking it twice like Santa Claus. So this is another one of Ernest's books, Think Your Troubles Away. The conscious use of this power comes from the recognition that it actually exists. It responds to us, and we can directly contact it and definitely use it. It responds to the impress of our thoughts. That's why affirmations are so powerful. If we can get clear with our affirmations, and we can state those in a way that have meaning in us, where we feel that affirmation as the truth, then there's a power in that. And it's a power that we can use. So this power is part of our spiritual life. It is there for us to bring about the conditions that we want to experience in our lives. And so here in this quote from 365 Science of Mind, Ernest says that you're able to bring permanent peace, increasing happiness and joy, and greater material abundance. Who doesn't want that? Who does not want permanent peace, greater happiness and joy, and more abundance in their lives? That is what we strive for, those ideas, plus some other things like love and joy and things like that. These things that have made us miserable can be eliminated through the conscious use of this power. Through the conscious use of this power. That means we are not sitting back saying, oh, boy, I hope this happens. We're not doing that. We're like affirming that this is the reality, that I live a life of peace and joy and happiness. The material abundance is my birthright. If I begin to really believe that and embody that, that becomes my experience. This energy is a life force. It is a power for good in the universe. We can use it to bring about changing the conditions in our lives. Ernest goes on to say here, it is a life force, a power, an energy, an intelligence, seeking an outlet through everything. It is just waiting for the place in the world to show up. And as we align our consciousness with it, we become that place, that avenue through which spirit shows up in our affairs. Life is always an active state. It is always doing something. Life is another one of those names for spirit. The invisible seems to be teeming with a powerful energy backed by an intense desire to create. And I know I've talked about this a lot when I was speaking about love, about this creative deity that is just absolutely delighted by everything that it creates. My idea is this happy fat Buddha that's sitting there giggling as it creates each one of us individually, perfectly. Look at what I've done here. Look at this one. Look at that one. It is an absolute joy that is teeming within that creative energy. That's power. That is power, that life force that creates from within itself all the time. We have to believe in this power, though. We have to actually act as if it is and have some belief about that within ourselves. We must believe that it's right where we are at all times, that this power and this presence is there and it is active and it is looking for a place an outlet for it to show up. We also have to understand that this is only ever a power for good. So that when we are experiencing things that are not so good, like what I experienced earlier on this week, I realize that this is not something that's being done to me because of something I've done wrong. This just happens to be part of the circumstances where I didn't give enough attention to some of the things that I needed to be doing in life, like watching what I was putting in my mouth and where I was stepping and so forth. You know, I am as much of a co-creator of my experience as Spirit is. And so I have the responsibility at every moment to use the power wisely, to use it for my greatest good. And so as I begin to experience things that I don't want to, I can look at how I use the power in a way that was not for my highest and greatest. And so that allows me to have a place of understanding my relationship with Spirit and how I co-create my experiences. You know, we have to begin to realize that there is this power that is flowing through us all of the time. It is a constantly movement of it through us. And then we have to understand that our instrument for this power is our own minds, our own belief system, our own way of thinking. So do I believe things are going to happen to me and then I watch it happen? Oftentimes. I know that few moments before I fell, I thought to myself, better be careful, Laura, you might fall. I did. And, you know, self-fulfilling prophecy, you know. I was speaking with some other people earlier today, and we were talking about how we manifest conditions in our bodies by the thoughts that we have about them. Sometimes those thoughts were years and years and years ago, but they still linger. And then we wind up having a condition in our body that demonstrates the outcome of that thought. We can think about our finances the same way. We can be worried about our financial good and constantly dwelling on the lack that we are experiencing. And what are we getting more of? Lack. But if we start to open up to the idea that there is this ever flow, this circulation of good, as we call it, that is constantly moving through us, we can begin to have a different experience. The more we clamp down on our financial good, the tighter it becomes. We demonstrate the lack by thinking we have lack. And so obviously it goes into being that if we change that thought, if we turn it around, then we can have a different experience. Sometimes it takes longer than other times because it's all based on our belief system. I think if we could get totally clear about the truth and absolutely begin to embody it, we wouldn't have to go through all those stages of trying to figure it out and work towards it. But unfortunately, we learn by our experiences. And so as we experience more good, little steps of good, then those steps come more frequently and a greater experience happens in our lives. I know that's been my experience with finances. I had to start really small and get to something that I could believe in and then increase that until as I increased it, I began to experience it, and then it opened up. It opened up a way. So, you know, as it is that right now, things are flowing beautifully through my life because I am so immersed in this belief system. I have the greatest job in the world because I get to spend an entire week studying these principles so that I can actually stand up here and talk a little bit about them. You know, so it's like I can't talk about something that I can't embody. I can't talk about something that I don't believe, that I haven't demonstrated in my life myself. And so I find this to be an incredible job. I'm lucky. Anyway. So this power that is within us, it's in us now. It is constantly operating in us now. We don't have to wait for it to come in. We might have to wait to build our recognition of it, but it is there and it is available. We need to recognize it as it is, that there is this power that is constantly looking for a creative outlet. I love this line. We need to recognize it because we are a seed of the divine life deposited on the earth so that we will live and love and create and be happy. Just imagine yourself, a seed planted in this particular spot at this particular time, and you are blossoming as love and life and happiness and joy and prosperity. That's the very nature of who we are. Spirit doesn't care what kind of seeds it plants. And it does the same thing with every seed as it plants it. We are blossoming as the presence of the divine right here and right now. Mahatma Gandhi is one of the people I love to read about him and works that he did. He said that there's a soul force in the universe, a power which, if we permit it, will flow through us and produce miraculous results. All of his critics, all of the people that didn't think Mahatma Gandhi was that special, used to call him a dreamer or an impossible idealist. I happen to think that he was one of the people who, maybe second only to Jesus, that understood this power, understood his relationship with Spirit, and understood how it is manifesting itself as these seeds of life deposited on the earth. As we align ourselves with these ideas, there begins to be an opening within us for more and more good to show up in our lives. How do we do this? How do we begin to bring this in? Well, again, we have to build the faith. And for me, building faith is most easily done in meditation and contemplation, in sitting quietly and communing with Spirit. Ernest puts it this way: the originating power descends into consciousness, which meditates upon it and receives it. The intellect abandons itself to the divine idea. It is a feeling, a sense, an atmosphere. We do not have to energize this power, for it is the very essence of all energy. As we meditate on Spirit, as we contemplate on Spirit, as we sit in communion with the divine through our acts of service, through our mindful activities that we do throughout the day, through any of the spiritual study that we do, as we sit with these ideas of Spirit and these ideas of this power and this presence working in our lives, then we begin to become more conscious of it. And as we begin to get more conscious of it, that faith is amplified within us. And then we begin to see experiences of it in our lives. We begin to see its results showing up in different areas of our lives. And that solidifies the faith. Because look, I'm like, okay, this is what I thought. Look at there it is. That's what's showing up in my life. I believe. And so as we begin to build that and experience it, then this power becomes more tangible for us. It becomes more real in our lives. And the more real it becomes, the more easily we can access it and use it for manifesting the things that we are wanting to bring into our lives. Whether that is health, relationships, prosperity, whatever that is, creativity, whatever it is that we are wanting to experience more of in our lives, we can actually begin to do that as we build the faith and as we recognize that that one power and presence is what is actually doing the work. It is moving through us into expression in whatever avenue it is that we're looking to do that in. We don't have to wonder about whether it's going to work or not. It is always working. It has to work. It has an impulse within it to create. We wouldn't have evidence of all of the amazing creations of Spirit if it wasn't constantly working. Imagine just going outside and looking at all of the vast things that we see that Spirit has created. Just through that little gap in the back of the door there, I see plants and buildings and cars and people moving right through there. Right now, just in that little moment. Imagine if we spent our day looking around and seeing evidence of Spirit in action. It is a creative force. It is powerful. It is palpable. And it is always working itself through us right now into our experience. It's the very nature of it to do this. This powerful, infinite creative intelligence is always at our disposal. Now, some people might think that that's a little arrogant, to think that I have God at my disposal. But the truth is, Spirit is looking for a place to manifest itself. It can only experience the world as it experiences it through each one of us. That's what Spirit's looking for. It's looking to create more and more places for it to experience the world. And because of this, the limitless resources of Spirit are at our disposal. We can use them. There is nothing in us that is ever lacking. We just feel like it is. We just have become accustomed to experiencing it, and that has solidified our belief more than the power of Spirit to manifest itself through us all the time. We have as much of it to use as we are able to take. And so if we want to have more in our lives, we need to open up the way that we are willing to receive it. We've been talking about receiving lately in one of the classes that I'm teaching, and how many of us are hesitant to receive for so many different things. A lot of it has to do with old messages we've received as a child. Oh, don't ask for too much. You shouldn't. That's an imposition if you ask for that. All of those old belief systems that are out there. We were at a women's retreat once, and we draw cards with different sayings on them. And one of the sayings was, "Receiving is an act of generosity." It changed the entire experience for the women in that retreat, because so many of us have been hesitant to receive. I don't need that. For whatever reason, all kinds of reasons that we are hesitant to receive things. But when we do that, we cut ourselves off from the flow, and we stop the possibility of the other person receiving some kind of good feelings because they were able to give. We cut ourselves out of that circulation, as we talk about that law of circulation, where we have to constantly be giving and receiving to keep that flow going. And so when we learn to receive all that Spirit has available to us, then we actually have that in our experience. We have as much to use as we know how to take. And so begin to look at our thoughts about taking, our thoughts about receiving. Is there something holding you back because of old belief system that you had about that? The taking is a thing of thought, the will, the imagination. It is a thing of inward feeling or interior awareness, in a place where the mind has unified itself with the living Spirit. If we get ourselves aligned with Spirit and know that Spirit is constantly flowing into expression in whatever way it is we need, then that makes our taking and receiving a little easier for us to do. That thing that is constantly looking for a place to express actually now has a place to demonstrate itself in our lives. The thing that keeps us from our greater good is built of mental blocks. And again, these mental blocks come from our accumulated experiences. Some of those experiences we're not even aware of. They are old messages that may be passed down through generations in our families. Ernest Holmes calls them our race consciousness thoughts, these ideas that permeate under the surface, and we're not really even aware of them until we begin to examine them. But they're cemented together by fear, by disbelief, by negative experiences that we might have had. We do not have to experience anything negative in our lives. There's nothing written that says life has to be hard. There's nothing written that says that we need to suffer in any way in the world. We have an opportunity all the time to change our belief system. And we change it through one of our practices, our practice of meditation. Meditation is one of those things that will actually begin to bring about, usually in a subtle way, a change in our belief system. Because we sit and we contemplate on some idea, and then it becomes alive inside of us. And then when it becomes alive inside of us, we often have the impulse to experiment with it and see if that really is true in our lives. And so if you would, with me, let's just do a brief meditation here about eliminating some of those blocks and experiencing a greater degree of that power. So meditation can be passive or it can be active. When it's passive, it helps us to recognize spirit, and it helps us to feel that connection with spirit. But when it's active, it's where we begin to see the power of spirit working in our lives, where we begin to understand that we are surrounded by that creative mind that responds to our belief in it and that is always looking for an outlet. So we're going to start with a little bit of a passive meditation just to get ourselves connected with spirit, and then move into an active meditation. So if you would, just take a deep breath in. And I like to close my eyes when I meditate, so that's what I'm going to do. So I just invite you to relax into your seat, to feel that chair beneath you, supporting you, to feel maybe the movement of the air around you, to be aware that there are other people in the room with you. And if you find your mind wandering, which it will do, just bring your attention back to my voice as we move through this meditation together. So now let's just take in a deep breath and fill our lungs. Let them expand and then release it fully. And know that as you are breathing in and breathing out, you are connecting with that creative love intelligence. It is the very breath you breathe. It fills every cell of your body, traveling through every vessel, moving in and out of your body easily. And as it moves out of your body, recognize that it is surrounding you, that it is expanding outward from you, connecting with everyone else in the room. Spirit is breath. Spirit is life. It is pulsing through our bodies right now. It is what created our heart. It's what makes it beat. It is the blood that flows through us. It is every vessel within our body. We are the living embodiment of spirit. It is who and whose we are. Each one of us is filled with that creative love intelligence. Each one of us is held in its loving arms. Each one of us is supported by its action and activity. Each one of us is a tangible demonstration of the power of creation. What is it you are wanting to create in your life right now? What are you wanting to experience more of? What is tapping at the door of your consciousness, waiting to be let out and let loose into the world? Begin to get clear about what it is you want. And now ask yourself, what is holding me back? What thoughts or beliefs or doubts or fears are manifesting themselves right now, inhibiting me from experiencing all the good that is available to me? Now ask yourself, is that true? Is this fear something that is real? Is this old belief something I want to hold on to? Am I ready to release the doubt and the insecurities I have around this idea? Now tap back into that feeling of the power of Spirit moving through you. And just watch as it eliminates each one of those doubts and fears. They don't have a place to operate in the presence of this power. And so they drift back into the nothingness from which they came. And now consciously claim for yourself the good that you are seeking. Put this into an affirmation that you can use to activate a remembrance of this experience. I am the power of Spirit manifesting here on earth. I am grace in action. I live abundantly and prosperly. All of my affairs are in right order. I have loving relationships. My health and my body are vital and alive and support me as I move through my life. Claim this for yourself. Claim it right here and right now. And so just take in another deep breath. Let it out. Bring your awareness to the chair that you're sitting upon, into the presence of others around you. And go ahead and begin to open your eyes. One of the best ways that we can take these ideas and anchor them in our experience is through our other spiritual practice, affirmative prayer. And so right now I'd like the licensed practitioners to stand and surround the sanctuary, holding us in consciousness as we pray together. These beloveds spend 4+ years studying these spiritual principles and practices, learning to know truth with a capital T, learning to experience that power in their lives. And so right here and right now, I know that there is only this one power, one presence, one divine creative source of all. It goes by many names and shows up in a multitude of incarnations. But it is personal to each one of us. I know this one as that creative, loving intelligence that has brought forth everything into existence. That each form of creation is filled with that power and that presence. That one life is living itself in a multitude of ways, having the experience of life as only it can. And because I know that there is only one, I know that I am one with it. That the power and the presence of that Creator is inside of me. It is living through me right here and right now. And as I know this is true for me, I know this is true for everyone. For each of us is that seed of divine love planted on the earth and exhibiting itself as perfection and wholeness and love and prosperity and joy and happiness. It is the very nature of the divine to be all of this. And so knowing this, I speak my word of truth. I know that right here and right now, this power is moving through each one of us. It is dynamic. It is creative. It is making itself known in our lives right now. I feel it in this building. I feel it happening in the community that we are supporting here. I know that it is expanding itself out into the greater community around us. That this power and this perfection is uncontainable. And that it is a force for amazing good in our world. I know that there is no judgment about what is created. Only the experience of creation happening right here and right now. And I just delight in all the wonderful ways that it is showing up. And so I just simply give thanks for this knowing, thanks for this feeling, thanks for the evidence that is showing itself up right now in our experience. And so I release this word into the law to that creative intelligence that always says yes, that it's always looking for an outlet and is always available for us. I let it go and I let it be. And together we say, and so it is.